Hi, everyone. My name is Jesse Robbins, and welcome to LPLE from Dialogue FM. We're the podcast that lets you practice listening in English. We speak English slowly and clearly so that you can follow along and understand native English speakers more easily. I'm excited to help you improve your English listening skill, as well as help you learn new vocabulary, grammar, and idioms commonly heard in conversations among native English speakers. If you want to practice listening in English, then we invite you to join our conversation. Hi, Jane.
Hi, Jesse.
Today, rather this week, let's say the past 7 to 10 days, has been a very interesting time for local politics here in Seattle, national politics here in our country, and international politics, particularly in France. So I figured today we can talk about the local politics, specifically what is happening in our city of Seattle. And then the second half, talk about the politics in France, which I know is very near and dear to your heart. Out of curiosity, have you heard about the news regarding the mayor?
Yes. You mean that he's decided not to run for re-election?
Yeah, that one.
Because of the scandal about his past.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I have mixed emotions. First off, let's explain to our listeners the idea of a mayor, right? So a mayor of a city is kind of like the president of a country, right? They govern, they manage a city. They manage the money, the taxes, they manage a lot of things.
And they have a legislature, a city council,
right,
that they have to negotiate and deal with, as a president has to deal with Congress.
Yep, exactly. That's right. So this year, this November, our city will have a mayoral election. We will be voting for a new mayor. Now, the current mayor was originally going to run again. We say run for re-election.
Yes.
And then some very shocking news came out through the local media, alleging that he committed some certain scandalous, potentially criminal activity. Now, we don't have to go into the details of that, but the reason why I am, in English we say torn, right? We have conflicting emotions.
Yes.
I have conflicting emotions about this because on one hand, I'm not particularly a supporter of the mayor. On the other hand, this feels like what we call character assassination. Right, so what are your thoughts?
Yes. I think, once again, I'm pretty much in sync with you. I don't have strong feelings for or against the mayor, to tell you the truth. I think he's done some good things. He's worried about homelessness, but I'm not sure his solutions are always right. He seems to have been doing as honest a job as possible. He seems to be have good intentions, and he seems to be quite principled. He's also been very straightforward about the fact that he is gay, and that in Seattle is something that's quite accepted. The allegations that have been made against him recently are shocking and disquieting, certainly. It makes you worried. But they are for things that happened 30 or 35 years ago, and one wonders why they only came up now. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that there was one allegation of sexual abuse, and then it was followed by 3 or 4 other people.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well.
So I just don't know. One wonders why it didn't happen sooner. It certainly could have happened. Why now?
The timing is
very strange. I agree.
It's strange, and it's borderline. It's very close to being suspicious.
I have to agree. One of the people who is accusing says that the fact he is not going to run again for re-election is not enough, because it's not an admission, it's not an apology. This person is obviously not thinking of the city of Seattle and of what chaos would happen if a mayor suddenly quit now. There are only a few months left. I don't know. It's hard to know.
Local politics is very important anywhere, and specifically for Seattle. Now, I say that because in our city, as you well know, we do have a really difficult challenge with the homeless crisis.
It's worse than I've ever seen it in my life.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm very careful about the words that I choose to describe the homeless challenge. Maybe this might be overly sensitive on my part, but I do try to explain the homeless challenge as a challenge and not a problem. And the reason I say that is because when we associate homelessness with being a problem, my personal feeling is that we start to think of the people
as a problem.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I don't think that's fair.
That's not the case at all. No.
Right.
No, it's a challenge for them as well.
Right.
They certainly don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah. Or many of them, can't help it.
That's right.
For lots of different reasons. So I'm always afraid of using the word homeless problem. Homeless crisis is one phrase, homeless challenge. But no matter what, the solution to this challenge comes from our government, our local government. And who we elect, who we vote for, who we support, ultimately that person is going to be in charge of solving this challenge. So it's very somewhat rather important that we collectively pay attention to this situation,
and that we elect someone who considers it a priority.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which he does.
Yeah. So this election year is going to be something to watch. It feels like every election or every year now is an election to watch. Last year was, of course, the presidential election. This year, it's our city's mayor election and 2 city council members. Next year, primaries for our nation.
Yes, and elections for Congress.
That's right. That's right. So that's the local politics that we are following this week. This news just happened, I think yesterday, that Mayor Murray decided not to run for re-election.
Yes, and I have to say I think he made a very dignified choice. He essentially said that we have to be paying attention to the work before us, and it's not going to be about that. It's going to be about the scandal, and so I am standing down. Yeah. And I think it's probably the best thing he could do. The suggestion by one of his accusers that he should quit now and apologize seems, I can understand the person's feelings, but quitting now would just put chaos in the system and in the city. And yes, I think he made the right choice.
Yeah. This year we have, I think, 6 to 8 different mayor candidates. So there's a lot of research we have to do over these next few months when we decide who to vote for. Now,
that's right. Yeah. And because cities do have some power, and many of us in this country think it's important to be resisting certain aspects of the federal government's behavior, even city governments can make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, at this point, I'd like for us to jump 2 levels higher to international politics. For the listening audience, this is the point where Jane and I start talking at normal speed. If you have a difficult time understanding this part, please definitely go back to the first part and listen to that again and learn from that conversation, because many of the words that we might use in the next part, this normal speed, might come from what we talk about in the first part. Jane, holy smokes! When did we find out the results of the French election? What day was it? I can't remember days anymore.
It was Sunday night. Actually, it was Sunday, 8 p.m. in Paris. So it would have been 11. I heard by text from my friend in Paris. I heard at 11:01, which is 8:01 French time. Mm-hmm. 8 p.m. Mm-hmm. was when the results were announced in Paris. Mm. And she texted me at 1 minute after to say, "Phew,
yeah,
it's done." And she was quite relieved.
Did she text that to you in French?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so what's the...
Ouf, ça y est.
There it is. That's what I was curious. Like, what's the French equivalent for...
Ouf.
Oof. What a crazy... couple of weeks for French politics.
Yes.
You and I both agree this is a really good thing, a relief. What's concerning, I don't want to look at the bad side, but we can't help but notice that 1/3 of the population did vote for Le Pen, right?
Yes, that's right. Yes. And they also had quite a few people abstaining. That's the way it went from in our own election last November.
Right.
That a lot of people disliked both candidates so much that their consciences wouldn't allow them to vote for anyone.
That hurts my brain. Like
I know.
On one hand, I want to understand and be sympathetic to that way of thinking. I guess for me personally, there's too much at stake to sit out.
I think so too. And of course, the way we say it in English is, when it comes to that, you vote for the lesser of two evils.
Right.
And apparently the French expression for that is choosing between the pest and cholera, the plague and cholera.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, but some people just can't bear to vote for either one. So I guess that happened.
You're going to France in what? I think it's next week.
In about a month. Yeah.
Oh, in a month. Are you that much more excited to go to France? Does the result of the election change, like, in any way, how you're feeling about this upcoming trip?
Well, I guess that I could say that I'm pleased that Le Pen didn't win, because I think there would have been some of the ugliness, perhaps, that we're seeing since Mr. Trump became president. A lot of people seem to think that there's license to be cruel to people or to minorities and so on. There have been more anti-Jewish incidents, for example. There's been more bullying, or at least incidences of it. I don't know statistically. So I think, not that I ever feel unsafe in France or in Europe at all, but I think that's not going to be the case. And I'm excited just to hear what people think, because Macron is a completely new entity. It's his own new political party. So the two standard political parties that had been in power forever have both been sidelined.
Wow.
So
okay.
I think it's exciting in the sense that they avoided a xenophobic policy, which was going to take them out of the European Union and so on. But the French don't know what's going to happen now. It's a whole new world, and it's exciting in a way that France is kind of a lot dependent on France, not just the European Union. But I think somebody has to. How can I say it? America is appearing scary to a lot of people outside of the country, a country which they had more or less counted on for a certain amount of predictability, good or bad, and now they don't know. So at least having France vote for openness and European Union, at least I think we can say maybe the world's not falling apart completely.
Right. Generally speaking, America has been the reliable column that has held up the global economy. I mean, global financial crisis aside, from the fact that it emanated from here, in general terms, we have been the reliable economic partner in many ways.
Yes, and predictable in terms of what we'll do, even maybe militarily, even if people very much disagree with us, and even though we've caused intentionally or unintentionally a lot of problems, there's a certain understanding about how the United States is likely to behave, I think. And now that's very much up in the air. Right.
So now we have Germany. We talked about Germany maybe an episode or two ago in relation to how they, as an economy and as a society, get to stand atop the world stage and be the power, be the authority, be the beacon of light,
yes,
so to speak. And now France is emerging, hopefully, as one of those as well.
Yes,
because there was a lot of uncertainty with Le Pen, and now that's France has made their choice.
Right.
France has shown itself to, I guess, in our admittedly towards our preferences, as another beacon of
our
hope.
Bias.
Right, another beacon of light. In an odd way, I feel somewhat like you feel relieved that there is still some sanity in this world.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting. I don't think Americans are particularly, we don't care. people who are very interested in international affairs and in politics, of course, are interested in elections everywhere. But I think there was a little bit more interest here in the general public than usual in the election in France.
Right. It's interesting. I don't come from a political science education, nor global studies or international affairs.
No, me neither.
Right. And nevertheless, I was thinking in my head the names of, trying to remember how many names of world leaders I can remember. And I think I came up to 10, which I feel, on one hand, as an American, I felt proud of myself.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I realized I feel somewhat ashamed as well, because I should probably know more. But it goes to show that just how connected all these things are.
That's for sure now.
Right? And by learning about one, and starting with my own, learning about my own both local and national government, I'm forced to now pay attention to what's happening abroad as well.
Yes.
For better or worse. I'm happy I know about it, but I also realize I'm just reading that much more stress in my life.
That's right. That's right. But you've always been interested in international, in everything across the borders. You've always been open to that, as far as I can tell. That's how I met you, working in an environment where we were working with people from all over the world. So.
Yeah. You know what's funny?
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. My knowledge, I guess when it comes to being associated with the Vietnamese language, there's this expectation that I have to know about all things Vietnam. So I can articulate in Vietnamese pretty much what we've been talking about now, and yet I don't know who the political leaders are in Vietnam, and I also don't know the word for fork. So,
and I've forgotten it. The Vietnamese don't use chopsticks, right? They
use
forks.
Oh, yeah,
they do.
They use both.
They use both. All right. I was going to say maybe there's no such word, but there is.
The thing, I don't know why my brain does that. Does that happen to you? I mean,
well, I certainly am fluent in French. I've lived there, blah, 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 blah. But the same thing, people expect me to know a whole lot more than I do. And I'm quite ashamed of that. Whereas any French person, and this is true, I think, of most Europeans in general, and maybe people elsewhere, but they know a whole lot more about American politics than we know about their politics. And they, to some extent, may know more about American politics than we do. Mm-hmm. It's very well reported. They read it. And also, it's, I think, quite common for Europeans to just be really interested in politics.
Right.
And that's not as widespread here, I think.
Yeah. Now that I'm woken up at all hours of the night, random.
Vincent.
Exactly. I mean, last night, my son, I think, woke us up 2 or 3 times, par for the course, right? So if we assume we get 6 to 7 hours of sleep on the normal night, and the child wakes up every 2 hours to feed, then it makes sense that we're waking up around every other hour or so. And then take some time to get back to sleep, right?
Yes.
I got to remember to just start scrolling through either Wikipedia or the CIA fact book, just to read up on different countries. The CIA fact book, actually, if I recall, does a great job of summarizing the important information, much of which I think is going to be put onto Wikipedia anyway. But I think the CIA fact book is a pretty condensed source of information about each individual country.
Is it different from the State Department's, I don't know, list of countries? Because that one also is very concise, but perhaps it's different.
And that's a good question. I don't know. I've yet to hear. I wouldn't doubt if it's probably the same. But it's worthwhile. Actually, I should probably check out both. But nevertheless, it should make for good reading, or at least dry enough reading to get me to go back to sleep. Exactly. Well, let's say congratulations. How do you say congratulations in French?
Félicitations.
One more time.
Félicitations.
Félicitations. Hey,
Très bien, bravo.
Congratulations. We have avoided another geopolitical disaster. I'm excited to hear about your trip. Naturally, we'll talk a couple more times before then. But then when you come back, naturally, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about it. But in the meantime, here we are, yet another year of interesting politics for us.
That's right. But we have sun, and that's a surprise in Seattle right now. So let's enjoy this day.
I like it. Thank you for listening to this episode of LPLE. Let's practice listening in English from Dialogue FM. Subscribe to LPLE on iTunes to hear the latest episodes, or listen to past episodes on our website, dialogue.fm. That's dialog.fm. If you have questions or comments about English, or if you would like for us to use a word, grammar, or idiom in our conversation so you can learn how to use it correctly, we would love to hear from you on Twitter at dialogue.fm or Facebook at facebook.com/dialoguefm.